Boris Johnson was supposed to have a meeting with Vladimir Putin, not in person, but a phone call or like a Skype call or something, recently, and he couldn't go. He couldn't go because he had to go to Parliament to address the Sue Gray report. So as you lot probably already know, there are very, very dangerous things happening in Ukraine right now on the border between Ukraine and Russia, and it looks like Russia is going to go to war and invade Ukraine, and we've already done a video on that, and it is seeming increasingly likely that there will be some sort of conflict there, but you never know with Vladimir Putin. He likes to try and play the political game on another level. He thinks he's playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers, and maybe he's right, I don't know, but the guy has no regard for anyone's well-being other than his own, and if he makes a calculation going to war and invading Ukraine is going to increase his chances of staying in power, then he's going to do that. No questions asked, you know. It's just about, does he make that calculation? Is that what he thinks? Because that's the kind of man he is. But it's not just the US that are trying to prevent war, or at least seem like they're trying to prevent. And some people argue that the US is actually trying to encourage war. Personally, I don't agree with that. I don't think the US would want to do that. But the US isn't the only actor, basically. The UK is as well, and a number of other countries are involved. But we are one of the leading members of NATO, and it's our responsibility to try and sort these things out and try and secure the freedom and the sovereignty of NATO countries and NATO-aligned countries. So, again, for those who don't know, we've already explained this in another episode, but for those who don't know, NATO is just the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's just a group of Western countries who decided that, you know, we need to work together to secure our common interests and ensure our collective national security, and promote our sort of values and security overall around the world. And NATO has done some very horrible things, and it's done some actually not that terrible things. It's done some alright things. So, you know, it's by no means an all evil or all good organisation, or idea, even in theory. But in this case, NATO is, of course, will be the main sort of belligerent, siding with Ukraine if Russia decides to invade. And so the UK, being a leading member, has a lot of responsibility here. And then there's also the fact that we have, you know, the Russian oligarchs that back Vladimir Putin have a lot of their cash, a lot of their property, a lot of their wealth stored in the UK, especially in London. So we actually have more leverage than you might think, because as soon as they start to lose money, they will turn on him. And he doesn't want that, obviously. As we established, all he cares about is remaining in and expanding his power. So we should be able to, you know, influence this in quite a significant way. But instead of that, Boris Johnson missed a call with President Putin because he had to go before Parliament and address the Sue Gray report into him and a bunch of people in his government breaking the law during the pandemic, breaking lockdown rules and having a little party. And not just one, of course. There have been several, and some of which he didn't attend. There's been like over a dozen now that we know about. And, you know, some of them it's just alleged, some of them it's like fairly certain that they happened, and then, you know, a couple of them like definitely happened and he was at them. So, like, you know, Boris Johnson was there to basically try and lie about how he didn't break the law, and laugh in the face of the British people as they made immense sacrifices while their family members were suffering and dying. You know, it was it was pretty horrendous what they did, and so he was before Parliament when really he should have been trying to de-escalate tensions between Ukraine and Russia and try and stop Russia from invading a sovereign nation. Corruption doesn't just harm us here. Breaking the rules and having a government that views itself as above the law doesn't just harm us here and harm our country and our people. It harms countries around the world, especially when you're quite a powerful, quite an influential country like Britain. We're not a superpower, but we do have quite a lot of weight. Politically, militarily, economically. We do have quite a lot of influence. Culturally, we have a lot of soft power around the world. And a government like the Conservative government that we have at the moment, especially when it's led by someone like Boris Johnson, but it would be the same if it was, Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss or Michael Gove or whoever. It means that we get distracted from what it actually means to govern and what the point of governance is, right? You're supposed to be there to sort problems, not create problems yourself. And that is all this government does. It just creates problems, and then it has to try and look like it's solving them because it doesn't really care about solving them. It just sort of pretends to solve them. And then while that's happening, the real problems metastasize and they get worse and they grow bigger and they become more entrenched, and it's harder and harder to solve them, right? And that's exactly what's happened here. And excuse me. And as the Prime Minister well knows, the situation on the Ukraine border is very volatile and very dangerous, right? Like we're looking at a very volatile time in geopolitics, and people's lives are at risk. A lot of people's lives are at risk, and Russia is a nuclear power. The United States, the United Kingdom, China. These are all nuclear powers, and China obviously is an ally of Russia, although it's a bit of an uneasy alliance, but they do share one thing that's very powerful, and that's a hatred of the United States, and I think just the West in general. So while we have a government that's mired in its own corruption scandals, that's desperately backpedaling on all of the ridiculous law breaking that they did, a government that clearly doesn't view itself as having to abide by the rules that it sets, people's lives are being put further at risk. Tensions are escalating and things are going south. Things are going badly because our Prime Minister had to do damage control for his own ridiculous failures when he should be out there leading. I mean, come on. I mean, like, it's not much to ask, is it? That the Prime Minister just be there when major geopolitical crises in Europe occur. That's like, I thought the whole point of like being right wing was like you're like, oh, patriotic, I want Britain to be a world leader and have a lot of influence and stuff. I thought that was like one of their main things. I mean, I believe in that. I believe in that personally, and I wouldn't consider myself right wing at all. But like they reckon that the left hates Britain. But if you love Britain so much, Jesus, man. I mean, how on earth could you possibly support a Prime Minister who's so caught up in trying to save his own skin when he's obviously broken the rules and he's obviously nowhere near being fit for office, that he misses a chance to potentially de-escalate a major geopolitical situation that may result in war in Europe? How can anyone seriously justify that? And don't get me wrong, it's obviously Russia is the aggressor here. It's not our fault, it's not Ukraine's fault, it's not the United States' fault. But we do have responsibility to try and to be there for Ukraine and be there for the Russian people, because it's not fair that they get dragged into a war by a government that they have no say over either. What more can I say? It's not just affecting us, it's affecting Europe in general, and it will affect the world. And, the Conservative Party are complicit in it. All they care about is their ultra-wealthy donors. That's all they care about, and anyone else, nah. Right. And Boris Johnson will do anything to save his own skin, even if it means missing a call with Vladimir Putin during such a massive crisis. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts, you know. I don't really know how anyone can argue in Boris Johnson's favour on this one, but if you want to give it a go, feel free. I'm always interested to read your thoughts, no matter what they are, as long as, you know, they're not horrible. Yeah, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.